Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March Sustainability Advisory Council meeting for the City of Urbana. I will go ahead and ask staff to call the roll, please.
Tomas Delgado, Stacy Gloss,
Here.
Jessica Lemcool,
Recording in progress.
Here.
Andrew Stump,
Here.
Morgan White,
Here.
Grace Wilkin.
Here. Okay, great. Thank you. I believe we have a quorum, so we will proceed. In your packets, you would have received the minutes from the February meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second from Grace.
Grace, are there any changes or questions about the minutes as presented? Okay, not hearing any. We'll have staff call the roll one more time to vote for the approval.
Stacy Gloss,
Yes.
Jessica Lemcool,
Yes.
Andrew Stump,
Yes.
Morgan White,
Yes.
Grace Wilkin.
Yes.
Great, thank you. That passes. Are there any? So the next on the agenda is additions to the agenda. I have one. What I would like to do is go ahead and pass the chair to Andy while I propose an addition to the agenda for this evening. And so for that, I would propose that we add an agenda item to discuss Illinois American Water's proposed rate hikes as a way to introduce the issue to the commission this evening.
And that would be a presentation or discussion?
I would say brief discussion.
Under new business? Or where were you thinking?
That is fine by me. I think, yeah, under new business would work.
Seems reasonable to me. Do we need to vote on additions to the agenda? I don't know.
I thought typically that we did, which is why I passed the chair to Andy.
So I'll second the addition if we need that. And I think, yeah, we could vote on it.
I don't know if that needs a roll call vote.
I think remote, everything needs a roll call vote.
Okay.
So, Stacy Gloss,
I proposed it, but
you
yes.
still vote.
Yes.
Jessica Lemcool,
Yes.
Andrew Stump,
Yes.
Morgan White,
Yes.
Grace Wilkin.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we'll add Illinois American Water under new business. Are there any other additions to the agenda this evening?
Yes, I wanted to ask if we could do a brief thank you to Maddie. I assume she's not on the call, but for all of her service and talk about sort of what is our process for trying to get a new youth member, or is there one already in the works? So I guess the agenda item would be youth position on the commission. And I guess it's new business also. Could be maybe at the end. I move for that. Yes. Thank you, Grace.
Against that.
All right, can we do a roll call vote on that item as well?
Stacy Gloss,
Yes.
Jessica Lemcool,
Yes.
Andrew Stump,
Yes.
Morgan White,
Yes.
Grace Wilkin.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes, and we will also add the youth position to the for the agenda tonight. I will ask one more time if anybody else hasn't had the chance to raise their hand yet, if they have any additions or changes to the agenda this evening. Okay, hearing none, we will move on to public input. I see that we have a few folks in the room tonight that are joining us. If an attendee would like to address the commission this evening, if you would raise your hand to be acknowledged. I believe we'll add you into the, into the room with us so that you can make your comment. Okay, the chair recognizes Alexa Smith.
Hello, can you see me?
We can see the image on your screen.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay. You're still not seeing my face?
No, and I don't know if it's gonna
Okay, that's fine.
allow it or not, so I apologize for that. But welcome.
See
And
your picture though.
Okay. No worries. I guess I'll just say that I'm here with a couple of my classmates. I'm a part of the Environmental Leadership Program with the Institute for Sustainability, Energy, and Environment at the University of Illinois. And we're all really passionate about food waste and food insecurity. And we've done a lot of research working on looking at policies and looking at these issues in the Urbana community. And for me personally, it's quite frustrating to see that these two issues are juxtaposed, but we really see that this dichotomy points to a need for redistribution of food waste in our community. And so our goal as members of this environmental leadership program is to prevent resource-intensive valuable food from entering the landfill where it releases methane, reduce landfill tipping fees for local suppliers, and provide assistance to food insecure citizens in our area. And so in order to redistribute this food waste, our team has considered a couple of different avenues. We first looked into household collection operations, but due to issues of cost and contamination, we kind of decided to focus our food waste discussion in a different direction. So it turns out at the turn of this year, the state of New York enacted a legislation called the Food Donations and Food Scrap Recycling Law. And this mandated that designated food scrap generators producing more than 2 tons of food waste every week would need to find ways to either compost or donate all of their leftover food, preferably with edible food waste going to food pantries and food scraps going to compost. So through this program, my classmates and I have looked to instate hopefully a similar ordinance in Urbana. And that's kind of why we're interested in hearing all of your thoughts on what we have so far. And actually one of my classmates is also here, I think, to speak on that if John is able to join.
Okay, thank you, Alexa, for bringing up this important topic to us this evening. And welcome to the Environmental Leadership Program class tonight. Thank you for joining us. The chair recognizes John Hopkins.
Hello. Good evening. So part of what the research we've done so far is try to figure out what the costs and the effect of these programs are in other towns and cities. And we've looked into Ann Arbor and Boulder, Colorado to see how their programs are doing. And we figured out that while their programs are more encompassing, they do residential food waste stuff. We don't want to do that in Urbana. We figured that the costs of programs such as these would be far less expensive if employed in Urbana. And while we're trying to figure out like what maybe be the best way to implement something like this in the city, we're curious to see what your guys' thoughts are on our initial ideas.
Okay, Thank you. I was just gonna check to see, are there any other folks that would like to just speak to this topic in the meeting from the attendees? Because what I'll do next, if I see no further hands, I will just open that up to ask for any reactions, input, or feedback from members of the commission. Grace, go ahead.
Thanks. Thank you all who are joining us on Zoom from the class or watching later another time. I appreciate your input and thank you for sharing. I also was thinking of clarifying too kind of how things work in the meeting, that the public input time, everyone has, is it 4 minutes to speak? And it's usually not a back and forth responsive thing with the commission members. And I would love to be able to have that though. So I would definitely be interested in having a more kind of time for a discussion and presentation if that's something that students are interested in. I really love what's been given so far. I'm personally not an auditory absorber of stuff. So like I would love to see, you know, in writing or slides or whatever you've been working on. So I'm definitely interested in having this be more of a discussion. And I feel like tonight is a good kind of sneak peek from these public comments.
And I guess I have a question for Scott. I know in your staff report you talked about meeting with this class, so perhaps you could, is this the same topic that you, and the same group that you met with? So it's kind of on the agenda a little bit later.
Yeah, we had a great discussion and talked about the different issues and multiple streams of food that is coming out of grocery stores not for sale and where it's going and how much it's going, which are there are questions I don't have answers to. But this group knows that we're working on just a small investment in towards recovering food scrap in terms of compost at the Landscape Recycling Center.
Great. Grace, go ahead.
Thanks. I don't know if Morgan, if what I was kind of understanding the question being too was that like with the goals, you know, we had talked about like green revenue and green revolving fund, and I'm happy for it to take a food waste direction. Absolutely. My understanding is the same class that I spoke with once during their class time a few weeks ago. So I'm down for whatever direction it goes, but I would also have that same question if this is just kind of where the interest went, or if there's like multiple groups, multiple projects, or kind of how that happened.
Well, I can say there's definitely multiple groups and multiple projects. I think the class you spoke with, Grace, was the NRES 285 class. Does that sound familiar? The ICAP class that Meredith and Eric coordinate?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so maybe it was the same. The Environmental Leadership Program is a new program that's being piloted this year through IC, and it's going really well so far. So I'm sure it'll happen again and again. But this is the inaugural class, representatives from that cohort, and I am not fully aware of all the different projects they're involved in, but I do think it's more than one.
Okay, definitely. Yeah, the one I talked to was Dr. Green's class, I believe.
Yeah, and he's with both of them. But I think there's also, just as far as what you said, Grace, about the like green revolving fund, I think that's, to me, this would not replace that. It would just be in parallel, be an additional, or it's more connected with like the efforts to get composting in the community. To me, that's how I categorize it in my head. But I think that ultimately, when the class is, you know, when they have a document ready, then we can have it as a commission agenda item, or it could go into the process that way.
And I would agree with everything that has been said here so far. And just for the students on the call, if you would like to follow up on this topic, it is possible to find Scott Tess's contact information on the City of Urbana page and mine as well under the SAC Commission page. If you'd like to reach out to the both of us, it would be great to start a conversation. And that also this topic fits really well with the Illinois Climate Action Plan goals for resiliency. And I'd like to maybe explore that conversation thread further, but that might be more through the university work that I do than as part of this commission at this point. But thank you.
Just wanted to add something. I attended a webinar last week from the UIC Energy Resources Center, and they had 3 speakers talk about small scale anaerobic digesters in cities and towns. And that example from Tungsten, New York, and UC San Diego.
Did they mention, sorry, I think I'm getting off topic. I just don't know if they mentioned that there's opportunities right now for the, I guess, for wastewater treatment facilities to also receive some energy efficiency funding. And I kind of wonder if the digesters fit with that as well. It's a little bit off the topic of redistribution of food, but on the waste to energy side, but definitely appreciate the comments.
Yeah, the Tungsten, New York example, they were, they instituted this in regards to the new law in the state on food scrap waste. So they were taking that food scraps and digesting them. So
great, thank you. Okay, I'm going to check to see if any of the other attendees wish to address the commission this evening. If so, you may raise your hand. Okay, not seeing any, we are going to move on this evening to our staff report.
Good evening, Commission. Update on geothermal Urbana-Champaign. We have posted geothermal power hours on the website geothermaluc.org and the Facebook page for the program. We have had a first sale. It's actually a replacement heat exchanger for an existing geothermal system that is quite old, so it's time to replace the mechanical system. But the wells are still good, and so that portion of the system will remain. And we have some proposals out for full, complete new installs at some existing households. So that program's going great, and we'll be looking to schedule some more geothermal power hours for later in the year, July, August, September. So if someone has a group with a active mailing list that might want to co-host one of those power hours later in the year, I'd love to talk to them about that. We talked about the Landscape Recycling Center a bit earlier. We have formally accepted the grant. City Council has formally accepted the grant to pay for the infrastructure for a food scrap composting pilot program. And City Council has also amended the budget to accept that. This is just all bureaucratic steps in this process. We've selected a vendor to install the concrete bin, and hopefully this weather improving will mean that they can get that project started. There's a hand up. We're good.
So I heard from a restaurant in town that they would like to do composting. And I'm sorry, because I think I ask this almost every time, but can I direct them to you, or is it sort of already full? Okay, so I should have them connect to you, Scott. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Grace?
Thanks. While we were on this one too, I was meaning to ask, and I apologize, I could have easily just sent you an email until now, but here we are. I was wondering if you could possibly share the Facebook post about the pilot on the Sustainable Urbana page, and if it's easy enough, post it forward it along to the city, Bridget, or whoever takes care of that. There's a post on the CCES Facebook page. So I don't know if you can just share a copy from there.
Sure. I'm making a note.
And then also for other commission members or anyone else listening on the Champaign County Environmental Stewards Facebook page, there's a post and flyer about it with information. We are working on recruiting. I think it's not full yet, to the question, but I'm not sure we know exactly what full means yet. Do we, Scott?
I don't think we're going to get full.
Okay.
I think we'll be able to handle a first wave of interest. The capacity of the site in total is quite large, even though it's only 10% of the total volume, but the total volume is quite a bit.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. I have some notes about speaking to some classes. Again, we talked about that earlier. I spoke to another class tonight as well. I can't remember the name. It's Andre Ashmore's class about the work we're doing in sustainability and resilience at the city. U-Cycle did publish another invitation to bid for curbside bagged leaf collection. That's a program that U-Cycle is traditionally paid for, but we always hired a vendor to perform the service. We once again did not get any bids for that service, so we'll be looking to insource that and rent a Packer truck or two. But the supply of Packer trucks for short-term rentals is quite low, and so we're working on that. Typically, we do 1 week of curbside bagged leaf collection in the spring in April. So we hope to be able to provide that service again. Our next Sustainability Advisory Commission meeting would be April 5th at 7 p.m. in council chambers or by Zoom.
Great. Thank you so much for the staff report. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Okay. All right. We will move on. Under unfinished business, there will be an update from, I believe, Grace and Scott about the Urbana City Council and the mayoral strategic goals.
Thanks. There's not too much of a concrete update really about the goals themselves. Council did have another planning session, but we didn't really change the goals or action items at that one, kind of dived into more details on a few action items. So I think that they're still not finalized. There's not a most recent draft out, but when that comes available, that'll be on the city website and minutes and things. So I guess my kind of question or thought with that was if Scott had more connections with this environmental leadership class, which it seems like he has, and kind of I was interested in kind of where Scott was feeling on this and the direction and connections with this class.
Yeah, I'm interested in learning more about what they're finding. Some of the questions I have, things I'm not aware of, is there are multiple points in the food scrap stream, and they go different places. So there's a number of food banks that are collecting and redistributing, and how much food are they landfilling because they can't get it into someone's refrigerator. And then what's the cause or the barrier for not being able to reuse it after it's no longer saleable? Is it just overproduction of Twinkies, or is it distribution? Is it some folks have a barrier to getting to the food pantry? I don't know the answers to that, but I think finding out what the barrier is going to give us the best opportunity to have an intervention that's successful.
It was also getting me thinking about I definitely agree in the food waste system that stuff that's still perfectly good for consumption, but not saleable for whatever reason, to go to people, stuff that's not for human consumption, but not rotted yet for animal feed being another part we had talked about in that chain. And then the stuff that's, below that, kind of your first, seconds, and then thirds going to compost. And I agree. I think that would be an ideal system. I'm definitely interested in getting those pieces together. It seems like, the compost one we're kind of working on. And then also this touch point with the waste generators, I think is also kind of opening up some of that relationship for the next step being, here's a clean bin for food that would still be fit for human consumption that could go to a different place. So I definitely appreciate their interest in on that line of work. So yeah, thank you.
Is there any follow-up related? I know this might be kind of not connected to what we're talking about right now, but it also is. That person that presented about food scraps for farmers, is that like connected to this in any way, or do we have any like more information about that?
I don't have any more information about it.
I don't much either. That was Sarah who presented on that. I think her and Susan Monty from Champaign County Environmental Stewards, who Susan's been awesome spearheading and getting the grant for the cement pad for composting and things. I think they did touch base. I think that things just maybe haven't gone on since then. But definitely, I think that's a great avenue to pursue that partnership and trying to make that avenue happen. Susan found too that some of the places that she was talking to, the bigger grocery stores were using a company called Organics, I think, and they do some animal feed, food diversion and composting and stuff. And so some of the larger grocery stores that we were reaching out to are already using something like that. So we're looking a little more into figuring out where they're taking stuff and how that works.
Well, that is good news that it's not just getting all thrown away already. So that warms the soul a little bit. Thanks.
I haven't looked for it, so I'm not sure if it's available. Does anyone know if there is a compiled list where you can go either on the city website or some other website within the community for a list of the food banks and affiliates, like churches that have maybe kind of a food bank day a week or something like that, and find out in one place where all of that is happening?
Randomly, I believe that the U of I School of Social Work has a resource for that. I know we've used that in the schools, like with COVID, that was like kind of our one source to send to families because it had all sorts of resources in there, counseling, and yes, all the food banks were on there. So I could probably find that link and send it to you, Stacy, if that's helpful.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
We have a list on the ICAP portal that I think includes the one that Jess was just talking about, but it was sort of a summary about how to address food insecurity for the U of I students. It was coming from the perspective of the U of I students. And so it includes like housing solutions that are part of the dining services for housing residents. And it's on the resilience commitment as a project update in the portal for the ICAP on campus. And our, the ICAP effort kind of related to food waste is also, one of the things we do on the campus side is we have these teams that have different topics, and the teams have students, faculty, and staff, and they also have a clerk. And just so you know, the clerk for the Zero Waste ICAP team is Alexa Smith, who is one of the people doing public comment today. So it's all kind of, we're all working together in a good way.
Grace?
Thanks. Another one too is Champaign County Public Health has a website, a list of food pantries in Champaign County. And also the Eastern Illinois Food Bank may have a list of others. A lot of my understanding of how not all, but a lot of the food pantry stuff works too, is that a lot of places pick up from the Eastern Illinois Food Bank is kind of the central hub. So I think also from my experience, that's been a good place to just take it there, and they know how to distribute it to whom, and people know to go there to get what they need. Also maybe CU Solidarity Gardens, because they've done a lot of work of donating produce. They kind of set up some of their own system to deliver to people directly. But I think there was also a decent amount of work researching what places would accept donations of produce. So that would also maybe be a helpful piece.
And Grace, can you remind me, was food access and like food justice one of the strategic goals that the city council is discussing on that list? I just spent a few minutes trying to find the list on my computer or on our website from a previous meeting, and I was really having trouble locating that, since we are talking about the kind of city council goals here.
Yeah, I don't have them up in front of me. I can pull it up and share in just a minute if you'd like. But yes, I think that's definitely a part of it. There's one specifically about incentives for a grocery store in the North End in Ward 3. Research has been pushing for that for a long time, and that's definitely what the data says as a food desert. I was also trying to tag along something about Philo Road there. So I'm not sure how it's specifically worded or laid out in there, but I'd say yes, that's a piece of it.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Marcus.
So I just looked online, and Eastern Illinois Food Bank is the main food bank in the area. And their website, which is eifoodbank.org, has a page on it of about 20 affiliates in Champaign County that are, food pantries that are churches or pantries, or the Daily Bread Soup Kitchen. So that's eifoodbank.org/help/Champaign, as in Champaign County.html.
Thank you for that resource. I don't know if it's possible to review the list. I don't know, Grace, if you're looking at it, or if you just wanted to kind of speak to this issue for tonight, and then we could wrap up this discussion. Either way.
Yes, I can share real quick. And then, I think that's about all that I had for now on it, but I can just share this real quick for a review.
And are you able to share as well, at this point, what your expectations are for when it would receive a final vote or be more fully open for public comment? I'm wondering what that process is. And I don't remember from last month what we had discussed was that process for city council right now.
No, I don't think it's very specific, very decided yet. Okay. I think the hope and the goal was that this last one was our last session. I think some of us still feel that it's not finalized quite yet, so I think we'll see what happens.
And I think that I see the public safety action steps on here.
Yes, so this is the public safety ones. This is an older draft, actually. A lot of those action items on that one in particular are not accurate. I think.
Is that what was addressed at the community meeting last Tuesday?
No, those were changes from the meeting before that. Okay. They kind of put out the draft after the meeting, and this, I'm showing you this one because this is the one that's laid out in the boxes instead of the Excel sheet that's kind of small. So the one that was sent out to you earlier is the most recent draft. It's just not laid out in this format, so it's a little harder to read. But for housing, I think it didn't change very much. And we can send this out again. It is on the city website. I think it might not be in a consolidated place. It might just be in each meeting, so a little harder to find. But I think Scott sent out in our packet the Excel sheet that has more details. So this was the infrastructure one. And a lot of it is kind of operational stuff for asset management plans, implementing and repairing infrastructure, updating city infrastructure codes. That was definitely something that I know Stacy and Scott have been talked about that with Tim Cowan a bit as well. So I think they know that that needs to be done, and that's kind of encompassed in there. Investment in infrastructure equity. We have this equity and quality of life grant that they're soliciting input for, and then we'll implement. They're also working on having shovel-ready projects to apply for grant funding, and then identify areas of infrastructure inequity. And this is part of their typical assessments, and also interestingly, one of the SAC goals. So that could be another interesting point of collaboration on kind of looking at infrastructure equity and resources. And then the expanding green infrastructure ones we have here that we've talked about a little more in depth. And then the economic recovery and development was where some of the grocery store ones were too, I think in addition to equitable infrastructure. So we have small business, pandemic support, downtown revitalization, surveys for businesses, incentive programs, collaboration with the SWIFT program. And I think we must have added the grocery store in the north end after this version. So that's on the Excel one.
I'm sorry, Scott, did you share an Excel version of the city council goals?
That might have been a couple of months ago. I was just looking too. I couldn't find a more recent version than what you're seeing now on the city website. Yeah, I was trying to go through email.
I think it was in our SAC packet last month, right?
Ooh.
Or in the email for it.
Let me look there.
Either way, I guess thank you for the update. I think that it's important work that's being done. So thank you for doing that and for going through the planning process together. I would like to get some sense of the timeline. I know that you're not ready and don't have that information right now for when it would all be finalized. Last month we had said that if anybody on the commission wanted to provide some feedback on some of those goals and for me to pass that along to the city council, I would go ahead and do that. I did not receive comments from commission. So if you do want to revisit that and send that to me, that would be perfect and great. And I will also review, I'll go back through, I'll try and find it, Grace, and review and try and submit some sort of public comment on the topic. I admit it's been a little bit hard lately, like when I just, and I don't know, that it is what it is, and I understand it. It has been a little bit hard for me to look at the city council agendas when I've went and looked recently at not looking at every single one. And so I have basically Tuesday nights in mind, but the agendas are not the most descriptive for what is all being discussed before the city council meeting at this time. They're pretty generalized. And so unless a member of the public was really going to go and sit in the meeting and be part of the meeting, it is sometimes a little bit hard to know exactly what's going to be reviewed and talked about. And that has been some of my personal hesitancy to maybe attend a Monday night meeting and to provide public comment, because I really don't know if my comments would be germane to what was going to be spoken about during the city council. So that's just a little tiny bit about my own sort of insecurity for, why I don't show up every Monday or on Mondays and provide that input, or haven't done it yet, but I would like to. And I think that sharing this publicly is really good, and it gives us a time to digest it and to really think together about what's going into the strategic goals here. I mean, I think I know that the last month we talked about expanding green infrastructure in the community, and we were talking about defining it a little bit more, just as an example of, I think I'm wondering if that's rainwater management green infrastructure, or if we're talking about green infrastructure in in other ways as well, getting into green buildings or sustainable buildings.
Is this the document you were thinking of, Grace?
No, that is something I was working on with laying out the timeline. The strategies and the action items and everything are correct. Just that layout's not the most recent one. I found the most recent one. I just sent that again to you, Scott. It was in our packet material from the January, in January. So for the February meeting, wait, I just found the email. Sorry, where is it? The email that Scott sent on January 28th.
As a PDF file.
Strategic goals PDF. Yeah. And I just sent that along again. So it's handy. And that has those laid out. And then it has the PDF of the ones in Excel if you scroll down, but it's just kind of sideways and harder to read. Yeah, but if you sit there by yourself and you can orient it and zoom in, it's a little more readable, but it's not very good for presenting to a group yet like that.
Morgan, I see your hand is raised.
Thanks. So I'm just wondering, as far as the time frame goes, are those how rigorous are the time frames? Do you know, is there going to be like reporting on progress or some sort of like tracking on how everything's going, or is it sort of here's the vision and then we just see at the end whether we accomplished it as a city?
So we're still working on that. It's not quite finalized yet. What Scott was showing you before is what I was pushing for, kind of a Gantt chart-ish type thing. When we're starting, when we're gonna, start finalizing stuff, when we're gonna check in and have a goal completion date. It seems like there's not support for that. So I think that our current plan is that we're gonna have quarterly reports on all of the items together.
Okay. I have a secondary question that might be more for Marcus. We had hi Marcus, you had come and talked to us about intentions for improving the codes and like the subdivision ordinance. And I remember that you said that it's all going to sort of tie into the Imagine Urbana. I'm trying to I guess I would like reassurance that they're all kind of coming together, right? So we've got these goals and we've got these Imagine Urbana, we've got this need to update our ordinances, or I guess structural code documents, regulations. So that's my question.
So you might have noticed that one of those strategic goals was updating the subdivision code, which staff have been working on a slow burn for the last 15 years. But as the comprehensive plan came due for basically an entire rewrite, and that's the vision document for the city. So even though we haven't come to a full stop on updating the subdivision code, we're going to be relying on the vision document to possibly reframe some of that, because some of the things that even 5 years ago, staff and technical advisory group and other people were saying, these are good ideas. The public engagement with citizens and public officials and boards and commissions up at this year might say, looking forward, we want to focus on these other things. So we are kind of looking at the comprehensive plan, Imagine Urbana, as it's going to be like our guiding star for where the subdivision code ends up and where the zoning ordinance revision rewrite ends up. I think other staff will probably be considering that as well for things like the stormwater master plan and other guidance documents, possibly even things like the capital improvements plan.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, then I think we're gonna move us along to the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion conversation, the JEDI goals. And I know that just the agenda says just JEDI 15 minutes. The idea tonight was to just have a short discussion and try and finalize together any sort of planning or approaches that anybody might be thinking about taking for the goals that they had identified that they were interested in working on. And for reference, I'm going to try and find the document.
You can share our recent table if you'd like.
That would be very helpful. Yes.
So this should be the one from last time. As I was reviewing, I thought it was looking pretty good. So yeah, I'm also interested if other people have, had any thoughts or changes in the meantime. But I'm thinking it would probably be good to just have kind of regular check-ins about progress, maybe thoughts, set some goals for ourselves for the next month or two, just to kind of bring it up as a reminder.
Are you able to make this a little bit more full screen or bigger? Yeah.
That's as big as it gets. I was just trying to get, doesn't all fit on one page yet, but hopefully it will sometime.
No, this is good. I don't have to squint as hard. Thank you.
So I can go ahead and share on my goal. I haven't actually started my goal of create or find educational resources to be shared with local middle and high schools. I'm thinking, my goal is to basically have an Earth Month resource share and small events just at my school, and then expand outward, moving into next year, possibly sharing this year. But, I want to be realistic about my goal as well. I've been pretty busy with some other activities that we've had around celebrating Black history, which has been awesome. So I am excited to kind of use the month of March to get some stuff ready and plan some activities for Franklin that I will then, plan on expanding further, next Earth Month, as in the spring of 2023. So that is the only movement I have made on any of my items.
Thank you. I think that's awesome. And please reach out if you need any support with that. I think looking at the last one was supporting the rain barrel and composting event. I think that is coming up. I don't have the exact dates on that. Scott, do you? And will there be some information going out about it?
Exact dates haven't been posted or determined for certain. I think we're looking at May 7th. If that's a Saturday, that's the date that's coming up in my head. We haven't done the solicitation yet for a vendor, but we're making plans.
And with this year being, I don't know if we're all opening back up and we're all able to be together again. Would this be like people get the rain barrels dropped off at their houses in the way that you're writing the solicitation, or would it be for a central pickup location where you would be looking for some volunteers?
I'm anticipating that we'll have an outdoor in-person event as we had before COVID. And typically we can take a few volunteers, but the vendor will provide most of the labor. But if there's some folks that are interested in volunteering for kind of setup and directing traffic, that can be helpful. If there are organizations that have similar garden related activities, I'd love to talk to them about ways we might collaborate on the event.
Scott, could you explain, like, just sort of what do you envision in terms of collaboration, like helping to spread awareness for the most part, to get more people to come and buy one or get one?
It could be just promotion, as you described. In the past, we've had, I think, extension service folks come out and share information. There was one year we had prairie plant sale folks come out with some plants and sell at the event as well. So tie-ins like that are of interest.
Scott, I'm sorry. Did you say the date for that? I'm so sorry.
I think May 7th, but I'm not certain. I'd have to take a look. That's a Saturday, so that's probably the day.
I would gladly volunteer to help with. I mean, if you're asking for volunteers right here, I would gladly do that.
You're hired.
Awesome.
I think that if it's not too cumbersome, offering to do, inviting some folks to do like a tabling thing. It's such a beautiful time of year. I know some groups that would probably be interested in being there for that.
Yeah, I'd love to connect on that.
Stacy, you had asked about the one that says increase green infrastructure. And I think you were talking about it in terms of the council goals, that these kind of match up. And
They do.
I think that this case, it's not the green stormwater, rainwater infrastructure, but the sustainability, greeny kind of infrastructure, right? Because it's talking about energy as well and basic codes and revolving loan funds. While the one at the bottom of the list that we were just talking about said green infrastructure, and it meant the rainwater infrastructure. So we're using it in both ways.
We are using it in both ways. Actually, if you would go back up, Grace, I just wanted to ask for folks for their opinions on a couple of things actually under that sub-bullet, the increased green infrastructure. So there's a community and energy efficiency block grant fund that's coming down from the Department of Energy. I don't think we have from the city of Urbana a lot of information or much, if any, information about what that is yet. So what I am sort of wondering is if it would be helpful to work on either having a presentation at the SAC, or if I should try and make it more of a community type meeting where we invite folks from like Champaign and Savoy and Urbana, because it is block grant funding that is going to come down to kind of all of the communities. So I'm interested in learning more about that and maybe putting something like that together. I just wanted to see if that's something that you think I should be working on, or if it's, if that would meet the identify and promote the grant funding opportunities bullet. Okay. Head nods are good. And then the other one, and I don't know the timing on this.
You asked two questions though, Stacey. I think that if we have them present at the SAC and we invite others, that sort of also fulfills our goal to do some combined things and promoting the work of the SAC a little bit more. So inviting or getting a presentation about the grants here, and during that session, being sure to invite the others that you were talking about. Seems excellent.
I think that would be wonderful. And I would just like it to be, if we do that, just a way to make sure that it's okay. Like, so anyone who participates in that meeting can actually raise their hand and ask questions, so that all the questions don't have to come through the commission, especially if we have any city officials from any of the other communities attending for that, for informational purposes. But I love that idea, so thank you. And then a future meeting, and this could be kind of a similar format, Illinois stretch codes for new construction and building energy standards. We have CDAC, the Smart Energy Design Assistance Center at the University of Illinois, who is, I believe, contracted to the Illinois EPA to provide training on building codes. And with them being in our backyard, it is such a wonderful resource for them to be here. I think we could ask them for a presentation. They would probably do it for any part of the state, right? Not just here because we're their neighbors, but it's a little extra special because they are here and we know the folks that are working on some of that stuff. So I'd also like to have some kind of meeting on that as well. But maybe I should ask that to Marcus. Marcus, would that be helpful, having a CDAC-led presentation on Illinois stretch codes for building energy standards for existing buildings?
I think that would be super helpful. I think probably the best folks to direct that to would be Nick Hansen, who's the city building official. He manages the building safety division. So building code, Illinois Energy Conservation Code, all that stuff falls into his bucket. And it might be very timely because I think they're already in the process of discussing moving up from the version of the International Building Code that they're using now, which is several years old, jumping to something much more recent. So it might be good. It might be a good tie-in for them and maybe reinforcement.
I might call on you for some introductions.
Absolutely.
Okay,
If you email me, I will be glad to do that. And yes, the CDAC folks are great. And frankly, I've been wanting to maybe get a little bit of help from them anyways, because the zoning ordinance sometimes refers to things like exterior lighting requirements, and having somebody available to talk to us about, conservation level lighting levels and making sure that our zoning ordinance is in line with that would be helpful. So just establishing a relationship with somebody at CDAC would be good.
great, and I can help with that if needed. All right. Anything else on this topic? On the overall JEDI Goals strategic planning topic?
I had a little update, if that's okay. Didn't get to too many of them, but started tinkering around on the second one of address resource disparities and inequity. So I'll meet up with Tomas too, but I just wanted to highlight a few resources that Scott emailed out before the meeting because I was planning to share with you and thought you might want them afterwards. This was one tool is the EPA EJ screen mapping thing that was interesting. It's kind of when you get it going, it's like this, and it's just basic layered mapping, but I don't know if that could be helpful in some of our planning processes to combine with our local data. I was comparing it to some of the demographic data produced more locally. I think some of the demographics and socioeconomics might not be as accurate. What's highlighted on the map here is a food desert region, which I thought was interesting. Of course, now it's not loading, but this was just a cool tool I wanted to highlight if you're interested. And you can see different things of like demographics and also like air quality and locations close to hazardous waste and those kinds of things too. And then another one is more of that local data put together by the Regional Planning Commission. So this is also maybe part of like City Council's contribution partially, is this presentation, which again was emailed out to you on the city website from a January meeting. But it has some locally sourced demographics information from RPC. And then they kind of interestingly combine it all in variables for what do they call this? Social vulnerability based on poverty, income, age, household makeup, ethnicity, and violent crime. And then they've put together kind of hotspot areas. And then especially up here, just thinking about the grocery store is definitely the food desert area and some of the most socially vulnerable areas. So I think that that would be a good area to focus. So I just wanted to highlight a little bit of this information that's kind of already available and put together that I think would be a really good start when we also include some of our like infrastructure data that we're getting and assessments. You know, if you could overlay sidewalks on top of all that too. So I think there's some interesting stuff that we could start with and build off of. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Who was the presenter on this again? On this ARPA presentation? I do need to reach out to them in question.
This is RPC, Regional Planning Commission.
Was there a contact in the slide deck?
I think it's a. I think it said
Ash.
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 Yeah. Names, at least. I'm sure you can find their emails from there. And again, these Scott, I think, emailed out these slides tonight right before the meeting, and the link to that was another one too I would highlight on the city website. This is actually in a consolidated place on the city website here, American Rescue Plan Act funding. And those slides I showed you here are Urbana demographic information. And then they've also got other slides and information about ARPA stuff there. And we have opportunities for community input coming soon. I think I was told that hopefully this coming Monday we'll have an update on the community input plan. And it'll be a survey and town halls and stuff like that, which I think goes back to also some of the questions about public input on the council goals. And I think that while there is public input at any meeting, that it is kind of the council goals, and that especially the ARPA discussion is where there will be a much broader conversation and public engagement piece. And this is also connected to the comprehensive plan, Imagine Urbana survey, and some of those presentations too. They gave a nice summary of what they found so far from some of the Imagine Urbana work, and some other avenues of public feedback is in some of these other presentations.
Thank you for highlighting these. They are incredibly useful and comprehensive.
Yeah, I second that. Thank you.
Any other comments or final questions on the Jedi Goals strategic plan? Okay, thank you so much for sharing the screen.
I'm sorry, I thought one last thought too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, just setting next ones too. I think Jess and I briefly chatted and touched the base a little bit, but over the next month or two, we'll really be hitting our educational piece for that May goal too. If we were just kind of throwing in goals for ourselves on them for the future.
There is a lot going on right now. Thank you. Yes. Okay. All right. All right. So moving on to the new business section of our meeting under the Illinois American Water. And my intent is not to have a lengthy discussion about this right now, but I did want to introduce it. This was something that came to my attention recently, and I can go ahead. Let me see if I could figure this out. I'm terrible when I have one screen in front of me, how to share documents when I don't have the convenience of an extra monitor. So are folks able to see the rate review facts sheet? Thank you. Okay, so I'm just gonna read just a little bit here, so bear with me. Illinois American Water has submitted a rate change request to the Illinois Commerce Commission following extensive examination of the investments that they've already made to provide safe and reliable water and wastewater services. So at this time, they are saying that filing this rate change with the ICC is a necessary first step, that there would be an 11-month rate review process. I have no idea what goes into a rate review process, but I am interested in learning more. So rates are not changing at this time. However, they will be changing in the future, and that they would like for the rates to become effective in early 2023. So about 10 or 11 months from now. Everybody will have gotten this document in their water bill this month. If you are like me and usually think that their inserts are just about, hey, how to save money on your water bill by taking shorter showers, you might just throw it all away. And I realized I should not have thrown it away, because this letter did come with that, and it took a minute and kind of a beat to find it and have it sent from some other folks within the community who are concerned about this. So the important piece that folks really need to know is that the water bill the rate increase that is being proposed for our area, including the area of Champaign, part of the Central Water with Illinois American Water, is approximately 33%. That 33% will correspond to rising bills on everybody's bills, somewhere between $7 to $17 a month for a bill increase. As we've been talking about equity within our community, as we know that many people are behind on their water bills, and that we've had extensive organizing around shutting off people during the pandemic and everything else, given rising inflation and expenses increasing within the community on pretty much everything around us, I'm not surprised to see that Illinois American Water would be asking for a rate hike. However, I do feel it is going to disproportionately affect people within our community, and I'm greatly concerned about that at this time. So I did want to just bring that up here at the meeting tonight, let people know that it is something that is happening, that you have information in your water bill from Illinois American Water, and I am hoping over the next few weeks to talk with the Citizens Utility Board in Chicago, and to find some resources that people may be able to provide comment about these rate hikes, and to kind of have some of their questions answered about this. So that's what I wanted to introduce tonight. Any questions?
I have a question. Sorry, Grace, I think you and I unmuted at the same time. So is it correct that Illinois American Water is a privately owned, like, C corporation? It's not a governmental body like the sanitary district?
They're not governmental, and they're for profit. So they are interested in providing profits to their shareholders.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this to attention. I had not seen this, so I appreciate highlighting this. And it sounds like you said the plan was you were going to reach out to State Utility Commission or something along those lines for some more information. Is that right?
The Citizens Utility Board, they're a utilities watchdog group in Illinois that was created by statute several years ago. And they do things like intervene in rate cases at the ICC on behalf of consumers. They work usually mostly on like electric and gas bills. So they've been really active around the increases in the gas utilities this winter. And they also work on other issues like water. And I've also seen where they have looked into issues, for example, phone bills and on internet rate hikes and things like that. Anything that might be under the purview as a utility.
Yeah, well, thank you. I would definitely, appreciate any more information you can find from that, and ways that SAC or the city could at least throw our opinion out there, even if we can't fully control the situation. At least make a statement about it. And I was wondering about, it seems like there's a lot of infrastructure investment, kind of from a national and state level, and I guess maybe because they're for profit business, but I don't know if anyone has a sense of why it has to go to the consumer.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Doesn't it kind of always or frequently, like the thing that I'm feeling about this is the sad fact is I just don't feel shocked. Like after learning about water scarcity and how we've been treating our water and just the ongoing like pollution into our water and looking forward, to the future with the world changing and climate change. And, as they say, water's like the next oil. And, it's just, it's sad, but I am afraid that this would be the beginning of, not to be conspiracy theorists in any way, but that this is going to be something that we're going to see, right? That it's just water is going to become a more expensive resource, and that will directly impact people as it does in many places around the world, as it does here as well. But, this is already a thing that people are facing. Sorry. So yeah, it's just sad.
I'm interested in whether they could potentially have different rates for different parts of the state, because, the folks who are over the aquifer, and we're not even over, but we get our water from the Muhammad Aquifer. And so there's a level of, we need to protect that. But there's so many other places in Illinois that are getting their drinking water from surface water, like at Decatur and Chicago. And so there's some interesting, I would think that the total cost of water would be very different in the different places based on the source, while just a quick scan of the news online about this from, after you pulled it up just now, it talks about this is the rate case for the whole state, and the state needs a huge amount of investment in, or they're planning to put in $1 billion in investment across the state. And some of it's for water and some of it's for wastewater. And really, this is something that just is so similar to all across the world, where we have all this infrastructure that needs to be improved. We've got pavement and we've got buildings and water and all these different things that need to be revitalized and revamped, and it costs money. And sometimes when we do that, that cost gets it's like loading on the wrong folks, right? So there is one thing in a news article that says there's also a low income discount tariff that's being requested, and it would have to be approved, but it would give qualified customers about a 70% decrease in the charge for both water and wastewater. And so I think it's important for us to get clarity of what all that's going on.
And I agree with that. And I would point out one thing that I would want folks to know right now is that regardless of these future rate hikes, there is funding. It's similar to the Low Income Heating and Energy Assistance Program. It's called LIWAP, LIWAP, so Low Income Water Assistance Program. I don't know if that's a new program or if it's been around for a while, but I did hear people talking about that, and I saw it in this letter, that if you are struggling to pay for your water bill currently, contacting folks at CCRPC and the LIWAP program, if you are going to go to the weatherization office or the Low Income Heating and Energy Assistance Program office, you should be able to also find the resources for for providing assistance for your water bill at this time.
Yes, that's an excellent point. Thank you for bringing that up. I agree that, yeah, Regional Planning Commission has some great resources for utility and rental assistance, and then also Cunningham Township for Urbana or Cunningham Township residents.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen. As it's information that's evolving, I'll be happy to kind of share back with the commission next month, any updates that I find out. And if you're also interested in sort of utility policy or organizing around utility policy, you're welcome to reach out to me and we can all get connected to the Citizens Utility Board.
Thank you, Stacy. I think that's a really important issue to bring up. I really do. I wasn't trying to be like accepting of it either. You know, it's just, it is so important to recognize when stuff like that is happening, because, you know, there's just a lot of power in who has power over the water specifically. Yeah. So thank you.
Important. Yeah. And I don't want people to be blindsided by it either. And if there is a negotiation process, I would rather that start now than people just find out about it 11 months from now and say, wait, why is this happening? Okay, Morgan, go ahead.
Is it possible to try to invite someone from Illinois American Water to come and talk at the SEC? Possibly.
Potentially.
I could invite them, whether or not they can make it.
I mean, I'm sure that they love talking to their customers. They probably would. I mean, they do this kind of thing, but I would want to have some really good questions for them.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what upgrades they're planning for the central district.
Yeah, I think that would be great if they would be interested in that. I have reached out to them in the past about community engagement stuff, about like possibly touring a facility or something with an educational group, and they were very much against it. They were not for it at all. I think that's also some of the differences with a municipal utility and the third party. Morgan mentioned the differences like with Decatur and Chicago. I'm not as familiar with Chicago, but Decatur I know is a municipally run water treatment site off of Lake Decatur. And so it's a different kind of system than here. And what I found is that the publicly run ones are very open for tours and groups and talks and stuff. So I think I'd be interested in reaching out to them if they would talk with us. I think that would be wonderful.
Great, thank you. We may be able to reach out on that. Okay. All right, Morgan. I guess the last item of business under new business tonight would be figuring out our process for our new youth member. And I'll just kick that off by saying that Maddie has been a valuable member of our commission for some time. I'm really bad at dates, so it has been more than a couple of years.
She was
Definitely a freshman in high school
when she started, right? So 4 years.
And she filled what was the first youth seat that we had on the commission. So this goes back to several years ago, a university group called I Matter, was that it? Provided a report about sustainability to the city of Urbana. And part of that report included some recommendations. And one of those recommendations was to create a youth seat on the Sustainability Commission. And the mayor approved that and the seat was created. So Maddie filled that position for the past few years and she has now aged out of her seat. With that, we have that seat open and I don't exactly remember how we recruited in the first place, but we should probably recruit to fill the seat again.
Another thing I would add too, if I may, is that I wasn't here for that process when, the seat was created and Maddie was recruited and stuff. I think it's absolutely wonderful. From my understanding, this is actually was the first youth seat of any commission in the whole city. And since then, just recently, I'm terrible with time too, the pandemic, in the past month or two or three, some few months ago, the Arts and Culture Commission actually added a youth seat also that was modeled after the SAC one that they kind of took as an example for that. And so I think that's really awesome that it's gaining some momentum. And now we're not the only one we were, but I think now we are the first of two of youth seats on commissions in the city. And hopefully that will continue to grow. So that was a really awesome piece. And also thank you to Scott for sending Maddie's email so that we could also reach out to her. I told her that fun tidbit too, that, it's a big trendsetter, big city firsts, and then having things follow.
That's really cool about having another commission have a youth seat, and that this was the model for that. So thank you for sharing. I didn't know it.
So I wanted to just make sure we publicly thanked Maddie for everything she's done. So, I know, Maddie, you're not here, but you can look it up later. Thank you so much. You really have been a great contributor. I pulled up the bylaws, and the person has to be a resident of the city. They have to be at least 14, and they cannot stay on as the youth member past it ends on their 18th birthday. It's 1-year terms that are renewable. And so really anyone who's 14 or older, so I guess that means any high schooler, right? Because 14.
I think just about, we were looking for maybe 9th grade or older.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Jess, the little critter on your lap is not eligible yet.
Well, because I was trying to figure out how do we reach out, and I thought, Jess works at a school, could talk to Franklin, but that's not a high school, right? So
made the baby cry with that
I
one.
think it would be very easy if we wanted to have just a small application to email it to the principal of Urbana, and they can communicate it out, and kids can fill it out. I don't know if we were thinking application or what, but that would be my thought, possibly.
Yeah,
I think that they would need to fill out the kind of same application that commission members fill out, and that it would still have to go through Kate.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, Urbana High School seems like a pretty logical target to reach high school aged Urbana residents. So I think that would be a great one to have, like Jess said, just general applications for the principal. And if anyone has any particular ins, that would be great too.
So just throwing it out there that it might be more comfortable for the student to actually have another student if we were to have 2 of them. But I know that would have to be added, I guess, by the mayor. So just throwing that out there if this is, if it's something that's a possibility, and just depending on how many applications we get. But I could see lots of kids wanting to do something like this. So
another group that we can reach out to would be the students who were involved in the Youth Climate Forum. I don't know if after a couple of years of participating in that, if they've all kind of aged out at this point, but if that is still alive and if people are still part of that program, and they reach out to Miriam Larson at the IMC to find out more.
Yeah, I know that Chelsea from the Urbana Park District has continued in that effort. So I can reach out to Chelsea about it.
Thank you.
With that group.
Yeah, because I remember at the time we had the youth member, the high school sustainability committee or whatever group they have was reactive, so that they really pushed us to do that.
So I'll reach out to Chelsea, and someone else can reach out to the principal.
Jess, did you have a relationship with the principal that it would be seen if you sent it?
No, but I
No.
feel like I would be comfortable doing that because at least it's laying some groundwork for the Earth Month celebration next year. So, like just getting my name in there. I think I need to have the application put together first. So if
I'll send that to you.
if we-
I'll send you some of
Perfect.
that background information. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
And we also do have an open seat currently for just a general seat on the SAC as well.
I don't know if you saw Marcus's hand up there.
No, I missed it. I'm so sorry. Marcus.
That's okay. Another place in addition to Urbana High School to reach out might also be University High School. And I will mention, I moved over from Ohio. I was on their Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission for the city of Bowling Green. And their BPAC actually had both dedicated university seat as well as a dedicated high school seat and dedicated school seat. So they really tried pushing getting the youth and young adults onto that particular commission.
What was the third? You mentioned University High School, and I missed the third that you just said.
Middle school and
Middle
high
school.
So like all the way down into 7th, 8th grade. Now, one might say that maybe bicycling is a little less needing of age and maturity, but sustainability, I think, is that same sort of age range where that the right student, they start young.
Thank you.
I agree. There are definitely some very mature middle schoolers. Sadly, Urbana does not have an environmental club of any kind. I was just looking on their website, which I'm a little surprised by. But they do have Science Olympiad, which might be a good source. So I'm sure there are many a youth out there ready to, get involved. So I will send it to Uni High School, or Uni, and then also the Urbana High School.
Great. Thank you.
Thought the idea of a university seat was also interesting. I mean, I think one could easily argue that, any university student is over 18 is welcome to just be a regular member. But I think it is an interesting idea to have that kind of specific designation. So I think it's an interesting idea. Thank you for mentioning how some other places have done it.
On our BPAC, we also have a sort of a standing seat for the park district, I believe. So there's MTD and the park district and the university for the city of Urbana's Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission.
Good thoughts. Very good thoughts.
And if anyone else knows people too, anyone watching or any of the university students know have any connections with like homework tutoring or younger siblings or anyone else, they can apply online. Is the application on our webpage, I imagine, for SAC, Scott? I think people fill it out and email it back to Scott. Is that right?
It's on the city website. I think there's a link on the SAC page, and they mail it to the mayor's office.
Okay, thank you.
And we can also, if anybody contacted me or Scott, or basically any of us on the commission, we can get them that application. All right, with that, that's the end of our new business this evening. We are moving towards a close of our meeting. I was just going to open it up and see if anybody had any announcements that they wanted to share this evening. All right, with no further business before the commission meeting tonight, I call the meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.